You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And my guest for this segment, second segment, call it the main discussion. I've joined me, Godwin Sedzudzi Tamakloe. He is a lawyer and acting chief executive officer of the National Petroleum Authority. Are you still acting?
Well, I've gone past.
Yes, you are not. Thank you very much for making time to join us.
Thank you.
And happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Your birthday was all over. You are a big man. Oh.
I beg you.
Hey.
I'm a full soldier.
When was the birthday?
The whole of social media, he took over.
Okay.
The whole country known as social media. The whole continent.
Thank you.
All right. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
One of the youngest appointees that the president has brought into office, like including the Samijan fees, who are showing that young people can do the job if they are given the job. Next to him is Victoria Bright, international corporate lawyer and entrepreneur. Fred Dzanku is development economist and associate professor at ISE, University of Ghana. He joins us via Zoom. Professor Agyeman-Duah is here. He's former UN senior governance advisor, committed to the advocacy that is needed to put this country where it belongs. Dennis Miracles Aboagye is director of communications, Bawumia campaign. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right. So, the president has been talking to us yesterday, and he's been churning out the figures that you can't help but be excited at. But the question we ask is that people's real, true reality? First, let's listen to the president briefly and then come to the studio.
To address the high cost of power, the government...
President Mahama says the new approach will save the nation approximately 250 million cedis, with about 1.1 billion in legacy debt restructured for payment between 2026 and 2028.
To address the high cost of power, the government has successfully renegotiated existing power purchase agreements. Engagements with the 9 independent power producers have resulted in a 250 million immediate savings and 1.1 billion of legacy debt restructured for payments between the period 2026 and 2028. These revised agreements will be submitted to Cabinet, and I'm pleased to inform you, Mr. Speaker, will be brought here to Parliament for ratification.
The president also recounted that the country's energy sector had been plunged into a serious crisis in early 2025 as a result of financial constraints.
Mr. Speaker, in January 2025, we inherited an energy sector on the brink of collapse. That had been precipitated by a severe financial crisis. The sector was burdened with a staggering debt of 80 billion Ghana cedis.
President Mahama also disclosed that the Tema oil refinery has been revived, with the company beginning the processing of crude oil into petroleum products for the first time since 2018.
Mr. Speaker, I'm also pleased to announce to you that Tema oil refinery is back. I'm pleased to inform this August House that for the first time since 2018, the refinery has commenced processing of crude oil into petroleum products again.
President Mahama further noted that the government between January and December 2025 settled all outstanding gas invoices owed in the energy sector.
Between January and December 2025, through carefully coordinated policy actions, the government settled all outstanding gas invoices that were owed to ENI and Vitol, amounting to approximately $500 million.
The president also announced that 200 out of 400 targeted communities have been connected to the national grid under the Rural Electrification Program.
Under the Rural Electrification Program, 200 out of the 400 targeted communities have been connected to the national grid, with a further 100 at various stages of completion. The national electricity access for Ghana today stands at 89.05. We are committed to ensuring that every Ghanaian has access to reliable, affordable electricity. Impose hardships on its citizens. We've just begun to emerge from the most devastating economic crisis in our nation's recent history. This crisis was triggered by general financial indiscipline, huge deficits and massive debts that were occasioned by persistent and unbudgeted expenditure to meet the ends of convenient politicking. In the last week, we have had to take the painful but necessary decision to revise the producer price of cocoa to achieve competitive pricing and resolve the acute liquidity challenges in the sector. Mr. Speaker, failure to do this as others did and left a debt of 32 billion for this government to pay. Failure to do this would have meant borrowing billions in borrowed funds. Mr. Speaker, this unplanned expenditure would have taken us right back to the very devastating economic problem we have only recently begun to escape. So, Mr. Speaker, while fully understanding the concerns and protests of our farmers, I can firmly assure them that the reforms announced by government will see a total transformation of the cocoa sector. And it will guarantee them a fair and transparent price that enables them to meet the cost of producing the commodity and making decent margins. Our reserves currently stand at $13.8 billion from $9 billion at the end of 2024. This covers 5.7 months of import. A key driver of this development has been the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board. By formalizing gold exports, we have reduced smuggling, we have increased recorded exports in the artisanal and small-scale mining sector from 63.6 tons to 103 tons. And we've channeled that foreign exchange into our economy. Mr. Speaker, when the cedi stabilizes, imported inflation falls, businesses can plan better, and household incomes improve. Mr. Speaker, as global uncertainty grows, it is necessary for us to reduce our country's exposure to external shocks, break the cycle of economic downturns, and safeguard our macroeconomic stability.
Right, so that's the president giving us all the figures that make you smile, particularly knowing where we are coming from as a country just not too long ago. Well, the minority would rather that we focus on cocoa. Let's begin with Sedzudzi Tamakloe. So, yes, and we're trying to reflect, the big picture. Like Afiyamakin said, macroeconomics.
No, inflation.
Yesterday he said macroeconomics. So we want to reflect all of these on people's reality. Over 13,300 nurses and midwives have been employed, and yet there's a no-bed syndrome going on. He talks about what is going to happen, smart meters, about how many of them are being brought, and yet the power situation is very terrible, and I have suffered it personally, so I know what I'm talking about. The credits just vanishing. The cocoa haircut. Now there are petitions to OSP and also to Shraj, among others, and we see the indiscipline in our schools, and we are looking also at the safety, issue of safety. Our tomato, sellers only last week got into trouble, and now our fisher folk are also in trouble. So reflect these bigger picture to this.
Thank you. I think, so once again, good morning to you, good morning to Prof, and good morning to my learned senior, Vicky Bright. That said, I think it's worthy that I say good morning to our cherished viewers who have been very loyal to this platform. That said, I think it's important that we frame the conversation well. It's a proper framing of the conversation that will give an understanding what the state of the nation today is. First of all, President John Mahama took over an economy that was globally acclaimed to be in a junk status, because for the benefit of our international relations, there are global rating agencies that properly frame how you're doing in terms of your international image. And at a point in the history of this country, we were ranked junked baller. It's also important to make the point that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took this country at a point where our public debt was 122 billion Ghana cedis. And by the time he was leaving office, our public debt rose to 726.5 billion Ghana cedis. That's about 500 billion Ghana cedis added in the space of 8 years. It's also important to make the point that we had a situation where post-structural adjustments, never have we seen inflation get to the point where we recorded 54% inflation. And at that time, there were only 2 countries south of the Sahara that were doing better than South Sudan and Zimbabwe. It's also important to make the point that at a point, Ghana's, you had a situation where the exchange rate, and we all do agree that we are a net, importer. We are not a net exporter when you put everything together. So you had a situation where the Ghana cedi at a point traded 17 Ghana cedi to $1. That was the state of affairs that President Mahama took this country from. Now, by reason of assembling a certain level of competent, managers of the Ghanaian economy, it's instructive to note that today the record is simple. As at December, the Ghana cedi traded 10.5 Ghana cedi for $1, unprecedented. Today, as we speak, inflation, which used to be somewhere 54%, had come down to 3.6%. Now, when we say inflation is at 3.6%, it does not mean disinflation. By disinflation, we mean prices falling. What it simply means is that even if prices are rising, the rate of increase is 3.6%, so that we don't confuse the two. Today, as we speak, through prudent management of the economy, the public debt today had come to a point of stability because there's a foreign component of the public debt. So once your exchange rate is managed properly, we have made a savings of 82.1 billion Ghana cedis, Samson. That 82.1 billion Ghana cedis ordinarily would have been interest payment to some people. That today is saving simply by reason of the exchange rate being stable. That amount can do free SHS. That amount can get us more beds in our hospitals. That amount can get us more roads being fixed. That amount can get us more water. It's instructive to note. There's something that I need to point out here. You do know that in 6 years, we went for, $11 billion in Eurobonds in 6 years. If you add the Franklin Templeton 2.25 billion to it, what it means is that in 6 years, we did $13 billion in Eurobond. Now, that $13 billion in Eurobond, do you know how much interest we paid on it? On the Franklin Templeton bond alone, we did almost 2.7 billion Ghana cedis in interest payment alone.
And let me say, this is supposed to be your preliminary, overview. I'm just setting because I'll come back to you on the specifics.
So the point I am making is that if you look at the numbers, just one bond, we are doing 2.7 billion in interest payment. Imagine for us what you can do with 2.7 billion Ghana cedis in interest payment alone. Now, to the glory of God, in 1 year, We've not gone for $1 bond. What we have done through innovation, ingenuity, thinking outside the box, gold board alone has done, in terms of forex repatriation into the economy, $10 billion at a cost of 200 and something, million. So if you do the numbers, you can see that the competent managers of the economy today has positioned this country on the path of growth, on the path of confidence. Bank of Ghana and with the finance ministry recently issued out some treasury bills. And let me say, treasury bills today had come to record low levels. Almost 6.1.
Yeah, we are not exactly
record
happy.
Level. I know you will not
be at all.
You know, usually for lawyers, it's treasury bill that is their snits. The treasury bill is usually their snits.
We are not happy at all.
They are not happy, but it's good. It's healthy for the economy. It will not crowd out public investment, or because once the banks know that this is it, they can give it to businesses. They wouldn't be crowding out, and which is good for the economy. Senior, do you know, as we speak, the Ghanaian economy, in terms of the size, in terms of growth, the GDP, by the time President Mahama took over in 2024, was $83 billion. Today, as we speak, we are doing $113 billion in the space of 1 year. Some have described this as a miracle. But I think it's thoughtful and intentional, deliberate policy by government to reposition the Ghanaian economy well. And I want to, just by way of prelim, if you go on YouTube, and everyone watching me, there's a known Ghanaian, I'm sure an American as well, who is a comedian, and his name is Michael Blankson.
Yeah.
When you go to YouTube, the state of the economy and the states, in terms of our international imagery, on YouTube, if you follow him, is that on YouTube he has it, Ghana stole my $1.2 million.
I remember that.
Yes, I remember.
That is the image, to the point that at a point, this country had obtained a dubious distinction to international investors. The same person today referenced and said, thanks to President Mahama, my savings in Ghanaian sovereign bonds, I'm getting my returns.
At conferences, including in Kenya, we heard how they said that Ghana is an example of how not to manage an economy.
Absolutely. Now, so I want to make the point that President Mahama yesterday, consistent with the strictures of Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution, did not say that he's done with his 4-year mandate. What he has said is that within a year, having been given the mandate consistent with a social contract with the people of this country, this is what I've been able to do.
Okay.
Is there any room for improvement? The president concedes that there is more room for improvement.
All right.
However, he encourages all of us to put our hands on the wheel so that together we can drive this country to the path of prosperity for all.
Let me take Vicky's preliminary comments, and then Fred will follow, and then we have Prof also share his views with us. Of course, there are people who have been talking about various sectors of the economy where they feel cushioned. Food prices, people make confessions about food prices. If nothing at all, there's been a certain stability. People talk about going to the pumps today, and of course, those of us who drive long distances to places and use cars that consume a lot, it's easy to be able to share in that kind of joy. But the question is stability, how this can remain, if at all. Okay, so let me go to Fred, because they are the ones who have been, crunching the numbers and without political thinking cap around them. Yes, Fred.
Yeah, Samson, thank you for having me.
Yeah, the president painted such a good picture for us. It looks like we are on our way to heaven, but that's not the reality.
Thank you, Samson. And Apologies, I couldn't join in the studio because I'm not in the country. Well, as an academic, I'm going to approach this, as you rightly said, from a non-partisan lens. So a Sona, a State of a Nation address, is normally a statement of ambition. And as I looked at the summaries that were provided, you see a lot of ambition and also a statement of fact, what the numbers show regarding the macroeconomy. But, you know, the analytical question, however, is whether what we are seeing is sustainable. Remember that when we talk about a reset, you know, which is what we are talking about, what the government talks about, what the president talks about, it paints a picture of restoring macro stability, right? Stability in inflation, which we are seeing, sustainable public financing, exchange rate predictability. And here the issue is predictability. And I've done some work that has shown that even though we've achieved, you know, the city has appreciated, stability is still an issue if you look at it over the period. We've seen renewed investment confidence, which is good, which is part of the macroeconomic stability that we're talking about. But the issue is that stabilization is not instantaneous, right? So you can't really use 1 year achievement to be confident about stabilization. Is good. What we've done so far, what the country has done so far is commendable, is good, but we have to be cautious. We have to look, when you talk about stabilization, it's more
I don't understand you. You can't use 1 year to measure like how. I was watching Trump when he was giving the State of the Union address, and he also said the same thing. He said, what 1 year can do in an economy, that's what we are also experiencing as Ghanaians, right?
That's true.
It's a market difference, is it not?
Well, it is. It is, because those indicators that we normally cite have improved. But my caution here is that when you talk about stability, you need to be looking medium term. Can we, if we're able to sustain it, if the trajectory continues, right, then we're in a good place. So I'm just cautioning that using just a 1 year period to talk about stabilization is good. Things have stabilized. When you compare 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, we've seen some good, you know, movement in the right direction.
Do I hear you say, like in Chi, mehubida, anaye hubida? Because I remember 2017, 2018, I remember how Akufo-Addo was excited and touting the economy and Kenuforiata, everybody, and he was getting awards and being celebrated outside of the country.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. My point is that we should be happy where we are compared with where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Okay, let's not discount that. I'm not talking about us discounting it. I'm just saying that we need to continue on the right path. It requires sustained discipline over several years. You know, the real test is not whether stability has been achieved in 1 year, but it's whether the policy trajectory is credible and consistent over the medium term. If we're able to do that, then I'll be happy, and every Ghanaian will be happy. So
sorry, Doc, but answer this for me. Is the policy trajectory credible? That's the question you raise. Is it credible? How is it to be sustained?
At this moment, I don't have any doubt. I can't see anything at the moment to doubt its credibility, right? But because of history, because of where we've been and where we came to and where we are today, I adopt a kind of wait and see attitude, although I want to be optimistic because everybody wants things to go well.
Yeah. So in this economy, we know that it is propped up by gold. So touch wood, our prayer should be that things should not go, gold should not suffer the cocoa scenario, right? Because cocoa has taken a nosedive of about 70%, drop in the price since it went to $11,000 per ton.
Exactly. Let me just paint for you a bit of because these issues are structural, right? If we step back and look at the macroeconomic fundamentals over the past decade, for example, I was looking at the data. I want to mention 3 core patterns, right? First of all, Ghana has spent an average of about 36% of government revenue on interest payments over the period. Right? Because these are structural issues. I don't want to focus on just a year. The year is important, but let's focus on structural issues. But this 36% compared to, even if you look at the sub-Saharan African average, is 8% of government revenue that go into interest payment. We are doing about 36% in a decade. That's first. That means that more than 1/3 of every CD collected goes into servicing past debt rather than financing new capital formation. Now, second, if you look at government's investment path, our capacity to create growth, right? That has fallen from about 27% of GDP in 2015 to just about 10% recently. It means that we are investing, our investments in fiscal capital, or our investment capacity, our capital investment in the economy has declined. Now, that's important because it helps us look into the future, right? It's not just a one-term thing. Now, the third thing I want to mention is so this talks about fiscal space, right? We talked about fiscal space. Let's talk about growth. Now, if you look at our GDP per capita growth, it's been very unstable, right, over time. And these 3 indicators point to a structural issue in our economy. So we need to look at this structural. If we don't fix the structural issues, what will happen is that if gold is doing well, if cocoa is doing well, and then comes down, we'll come back and talk about the same thing that we've been discussing over the years. So that's why I want us to, take our eyes back a little bit and look at the structural issues in our economy, because until these structural issues are fixed, we'll be happy for 1 year. But if things don't continue in this trajectory, we'll come back and be discussing the same things we were discussing 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
But overall, if you were marking, what's the name? John Mahama, for a paper that he would have submitted on the management of the economy, let's check if you are very stingy with your marks.
We don't want to use it.
That's over what? Over 10? If we're looking at macroeconomic stability, at least you want the core indicators to be pointing at the right direction, right? Your exchange rate, your inflation rate, fiscal space, all these things.
They are on point.
For now, they are pointing in the right direction. So I don't want to give a score now, but I will say that we are so far in the right direction. Let's sustain it over a long period of time. Look, to be able to structurally transform, you must be growing between GDP per capita of between 4 to 6% over a long period of time. When I looked at the data over a decade, we are doing about 2.3%. So that's not good enough, right? We need this to continue growing at about 5 to 6% for about 20 years. Then we can talk about transformation.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Hold on there for me. Yes, Vicky, what's your general view? And welcome, Dennis.
Good morning to your view.
Dennis is a cocoa farmer.
Oh.
As for him,
no, by fault.
As for him, on Teshe, once the cocoa is not sold, once the cocoa price is going down,
he can't just be a miraculous cocoa farmer. I know. I mean, I'll tell you the GPS.
He tells you exactly where his cocoa farm is with specific. The description is
in the sea.
Please don't doubt
I don't just own it. I
don't doubt it.
I work with the
right. Yes, Vicky.
Okay. I think my view is more or less the same as everyone's view. That the president presented us with a stabilization narrative. And we can't deny that. I mean, our currency is stronger. We have lower debt ratios, higher reserves, lower inflation.
Correct.
The gold exports have been institutionalized under the gold board, and the cocoa sector reforms will be presented. So I think we'll hold our horses a little bit on that to see how that's meant to be operationalized. So what we are all hoping and praying for is that the reforms don't just end up being fiscal corrections following the extreme difficulties that we found ourselves in not too long ago. But they operate in such a way that in the long term, they prevent a relapse, because that has been a trajectory. We do well and then we go back. You know, 2 steps forward, four steps back. So we don't want that. So we're all hoping and praying that this time it stays. You know, it stays. So yes, the government's macroeconomic recovery, I think, is very commendable. But unless these fiscal discipline, export diversification, energy reforms, and enforcement independence are locked into our systems, they have to be locked into our systems, then the recovery risks become what I said. They become cyclical rather than permanent. They are not structural, and that is what we want, which is what my colleague was talking about earlier.
The question is if you have faith that we could get to the place that you are projecting.
I think so. I think we have to. We don't have a choice. I mean, if we are to move this country forward, we have to get to that place.
Or perhaps it's because the IMF is sitting over us.
But thankfully, we are in the process of getting out.
And when we do, normally,
we come
then
back.
the epileptic conduct of our drinking behavior begins.
We go
You know
wild.
that drunkard who promises every time that I'll stop. Today I have stopped, I won't do it again.
It's like, you know, someone who just comes into money, they pay off their debts, then they get given a lot of money, and then they go wild.
Right.
Exactly. No, so we can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expect a different result. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping that this time things will be done differently. But then this stability that we can all see and which we have to acknowledge has to translate into money in our pockets, lower cost of living for the ordinary Ghanaian, for all of us, increased real wages, sustained SME growth, because SME in any country, they drive the economy, and reduce youth exclusion, because I know that the employment figures, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, between Q1 and Q3 last year went up by 1 million, and that's great. But it's a question of when you look at the other side of the coin and the 1.95 million youth who are not in employment training or whatever, then it means that 1/5 of our youth are actually excluded.
They don't have the skill, nothing.
Yes, and they are excluded. Totally
that tells you the importance of the free SHS, right?
Yes. So, so we have to look at that. And the jobs that are being created, are they formal jobs? Are they informal? Are they seasonal? Are they permanent? You know, private sector, public sector? Because we can't also pack people into the public sector. It then leads us to the same problems, you know. So these are some of the finer details which we have to really look at. And then the 24-hour economy, the president spoke about that as well, that he signed the legislation now, it's now law. I think we're all excited to wait to see how that will actually work out from an implementation point of view, because, you know, that is what will determine the success or otherwise of this policy. And also, you know, we need to have, for it to work anyway, we need reliable power. We need to make sure our security services are on point.
You mean cheap and reliable power?
Cheap and reliable power. And some exemptions, because what we didn't hear was how, you know, if you're a businessman listening and eagerly waiting to see how that will benefit your business, we didn't really hear, or we haven't heard yet, I'm sure at some point it will come, how that's going to work. Import duties, tax exemptions. Are you going to have lower electricity tariffs?
Repeating what Agyeman King said a while ago on this show, but the project comes, and the president mentions capital investment in equipment and so on, that will come with an exemption on tax. Like
Yes.
it was done for the 1D, 1F.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. What form will it take? Tax exemptions, great. Businesses need, I mean, look, you need to empower businesses to move, because we all use the sentence loosely that, you know, the private sector must be the engine of growth. I mean, we can say that in our sleep. But that statement is actually a very profound statement when you unpack it, because a lot has to go into making that happen.
The man you advised when he was in power, he popularized it. The private sector is the engine of growth.
And he actually achieved that, in my view. He achieved that. The one thing that I was also happy about was to see on the anti-corruption side, to see the EOCO, the amount EOCO has actually recovered so far for the country. 600 million is a lot of money. And it's, you know, when you think about the fact that it's a huge pot of money.
They don't tell us, he doesn't tell us within what period.
Yes.
Whether for the life of EOCO or for the last how many years. I doubt it is the last 1 year.
Yeah, so we need to know that. We need to know over what period.
Because he pegs it to the number of cases they are doing.
The 462.
Yes, and I doubt that is within a year.
So we need to understand what that figure represents. And you know, there are some ongoing prosecutions. It would be helpful to also know how much they expect to recover from those ongoing prosecutions. Illegal mining dockets and all that were spoken about, that's fine. But the one thing I was actually happy about was what we've all been saying all along, that look, these guys who are being arrested are just pawns. You know, they're just pawns in the game. The real kingpins, the brains and the power behind.
He made it a campaign pledge.
Yes, illegal miners are hiding. And so you can arrest 10,000, 100,000 of these young kids, but you won't achieve anything unless you go behind and find out who is actually driving these things. And so these are some of, I'll pause here because these are preliminary comments.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was going to go to Prof, but there's something Prof does when he's on this show, and it helps me such a great deal, especially when you have these two guys around. So let me hear Dennis before I come to Prof.
I'm not sitting in between them.
Yes.
At that time I was.
But the sitting arrangement ought to be
Yes.
Maybe I should sit in between them.
Yeah. Normally we would deliberately put Prof in the middle. Yes, Dennis. Like Osahe and the mighty minority, once cocoa farmers are not getting the prices they want, this is nothing for you, right?
Well, I mean, good morning to my seniors here. It's not just cocoa farmers. I think the state of the nation is just the aggregation of every person within the state. And so if you have majority of the elements within the state not doing so well, that is what we tell on the state.
Is that where we are?
I think so.
Majority of the elements
I've made the point,
not doing well.
I've made that point here severally, and it's without emotions. It's just facts. I mean, Lawyer Duji made some very factual points. The macroeconomic performance in the last 1 year is without doubt. There is no debate about that. There's no conversation on that. The fact that we've seen unprecedented improvement in inflation, never seen before. I doubt even first world countries see this kind of macroeconomic improvement in such a short period. No discussion on that. The fact that we've seen some very heavy strength from our currency is without doubt. And of course, in a country like ours, once you have these indicators improving, it would affect a lot of other things. The details as to whether it's sustainable, based on what is driving it, is another conversation. And it's time for me, for the government to actually sit back and be honest with themselves, because we are going to hold them to their words. First of all, you need to begin to tell the Ghanaian people what is driving this improvement, so that should anything go wrong, which we are not praying for, you don't come back with excuses.
At least they've told us about gold.
We've seen too many of them, exactly. And we've always made a point about gold, and we've said that if gold is what is driving us, that we are in trouble, because we don't control it. We have absolutely zero control, like we are seeing with cocoa. It goes down one night and everything is in shambles.
Have you seen the promise of diversification, as Vicky pointed out?
To the extent that the government communications minister, when I was coming, was saying somewhere on another platform, that if they had not given the cocoa farmers the haircut, the economy would have collapsed, and that they did that to save the economy.
But President Mahama said that yesterday.
Perfect. So you see, I am drawing our attention that in spite of the politics, we have a country to run. I have said it here, that the government's performance in the last 1 year has benefited, in my view, some 10 to 15% of the population. No doubt about that.
10 to 15%?
Yes. The person that imports directly and so need forex benefited big time. That person cannot debate or fight this government. The person that pays anything, whether goods or services, in dollar, benefited. Who drives to the fuel station to buy fuel into their vehicle or plant or machinery benefited.
But the person joining the trotro also benefits.
He hasn't. That is where the issue comes in. In Accra, the data is that between 75 to 80% of people who live in Accra rely on commercial vehicles. They are not getting access to the vehicles. And as a result of that lack of supply, it is increasing the prices. So today, people have to wake up at 3 a.m. so they can get to work at 8:30 a.m., which they are late anyway. And they have to leave the office at 5.
But that's not a new phenomenon.
No. You see, making a point. None of the things happening are new. We have seen inflation going above 50% in this country before. It's not new. And we have seen inflation come down before. So none of the things are new. We are talking about a government that has come in place to fix the situation. Don't take us back to what is new or what is not new. If that is the case, then get out. But before I even make my point, let me just do some factual. Once we are discussing economics, we must be factual with the issues. So, Sedzudzi is first a politician, a lawyer before all of these things. He likes to garnish the issues. They did not inherit inflation.
But he has an economics background too.
No, but I know him. I know him very well. Data can be used for anything. His government did not inherit inflation at 54%. So,
of course, that was in 2022.
So it's disingenuous.
No, but I never said.
No, please hold on.
No, you did. You mentioned.
No, I said at a. Hold on.
Yeah.
On this platform, I said at a point inflation.
Yes.
The only two countries were better.
I was actually about to interject when you said that because it was unfair. You were using figures at 2024. But when it came to inflation, you went to 2022.
No. I moved from 54
Don't invite him again.
Don't worry.
Don't invite him.
Oh, you could have,
I won't invite. Right.
Please don't invite me again.
I would say what you said wrong, but
if you invite me, I'll come.
So it's disingenuous for you to be having a conversation in this manner, and then you are talking. So what you are saying is that inflation has moved from 54 to 3. No, it's not true. Whatever it is that your government has done to drive inflation down, moved it from 23% to 3%. That's fact. Immediately you bring in 54%, we'll question what other extraordinary thing you've done, because it means that you've doubled the effort to be able to drop it from 54 to 3. So don't do that. You did not inherit the exchange rate at 17. Again, don't do that. But let's move on. This government, I think, is refusing to take responsibility for anything that affects the Ghanaian people, except the macroeconomic indicator that there is no debate, which we all know that the driving force is the high international market price for gold. That is all. One thing. One single thing is what has driven us to where we are now. One thing. High international market price for gold. Tomorrow, the question we are asking our government to answer is tomorrow, should gold drop tomorrow morning to $2,000? Can we survive?
He says by the projection, the president says by the projection, gold prices will continue to do well for the next 3 years.
I mean, we woke up this morning and America has attacked Iran.
We never thought it would happen.
You understand? We woke up this morning and the US has attacked Iran. You and I went to bed, woke up the next day, and there is something called COVID. We thought it was a joke, and it ran for 3-4 years, disrupted the global economy. So that question is legitimate. Listen, some say go and pick their budget. Look at all the real sectors of the economy. None of them are progressing. This is not personal. This is just economics. This is just people who are worried about the realities that could hit us if we don't halt this government and get them to face the facts and deal with the fundamentals. Listen, you talk about macroeconomy. What is macroeconomy without its positive impact on micro? The whole essence of macroeconomic management is the output on the microeconomy. He is an economist. He knows that. If you drive your macroeconomic indicators to the best of numbers and your micro is not positively affected, you've done nothing. And my brother Kofi Tonto has a point he makes, which I would make it here. He says that I am sick. I had a previous doctor who couldn't heal me, and my sickness kept lingering. Then you came and said, I can cure this guy. For 1 year, you've actually concocted and, come up with the potion, the medicine, and it's in a package, and giving it to me. I keep drinking. I am not healing. But all you keep telling me is that at least I've been able to give you medicine. The other one couldn't give you anything.
That sounds like an account proverb.
So, Prof, the reality is that, and this is not personal, this is not politics. The reality is that we were sick. Everybody admits that. Even the president, then another Dzanku Akufo-Addo, admitted that. To the point where he said, some of the things where we are, when the new leader takes over, he will drive it. Now you've come. All you have done is to show us a package, branded with medicine, supposedly to be taken 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening. We've been taking it for 1 year. One thing is true. You have given us medicine. But the other truth is that the medicine is not curing us. Why am I saying this? Look at every aspect of our economy and tell me, which aspect of our economy has been positively affected by these things, except the 10% that I have admitted? Even some of the few areas that these macroeconomic indicators have affected positively, the counter effect, they haven't been able to deal with. The cocoa situation we have, one of the biggest reasons why we are in the situation we are in now is that the forex economic policy decisions you took has a counter effect on cocoa. You didn't prepare for it. When you were driving your currency strength up and driving dollar down with just buying gold and putting it into the forex market, you forgot that you also export, and that the more dollar you bring, and the CD also has a certain impact. So if cocoa today, for example, if dollar today was 14 cedis, cocoa farmers would not suffer, even though the international price has dropped. So whilst they were doing that, they forgot to deal with that aspect of it. Nobody is saying don't drive the currency strength, but I'm saying that whilst you are doing it, remember that there's another side that you have to deal with. Look at teachers, look at nurses.
So we will reflect reflect the state of the nation by the president on these issues, the way we have done them.
Okay.
So far you've spoken longer than anybody, so hold it there for me. Those will be your preliminary comment. But do you see a positive, future in the next year or two?
I have always said that there's something good this government is doing when it comes to the macro. All of us want to see.
No, I'm talking about how it will reflect.
I don't. I actually has a very gloomy, negative outlook.
Oh.
Because of the very important and factual point I have made. The basis, the foundation on which this current macroeconomic strength has been built is weak, and we don't control it.
Okay, thank you. Now hold it there. Prof. Agyeman-Duah, I know that...
Applause, miracle.
Well, let me not say I know, I don't know. What do you say? Sitting back, watching the president, and I know, people like you have time, you have watched, like, say, President Trump. To be frank, I like the way President Trump did his State of the Union and brought in various individuals and took his time to reflect on their lives and the things that have happened to them and so on and so forth. Even though the Democrats, sat down for almost the entire time, they won't get up and clap.
He wasn't happy with the Supreme Court judge.
Yes. He took them on right there in front of him.
Their faces.
The lapdogs.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I could reflect what President Mahama was doing on what Trump was doing. He was talking about the jobs that have the economy. He says it's gotten better, bigger, and it will be whatever. President Mahama says we should get our allowance, and that we are in some plane that's about to take flights. And so we have to get ready. What do you say?
Actually, every president comes to address the nation through the Sona, and they will always tell us things are looking up. They have to do that, because if you're a leader, you're not going to tell your people, hey, things are so gloomy, let's start packing. So I expect every president, including the American president, as you refer to come and just give out the spirit of people for them to believe that things are either doing well or going to do well. So that's expected. But of course, I also observed that the president came in fully confident, with broad smiles, because truly, as all my colleagues have said, the first year has been a very good year for the government and therefore for the people of Ghana. And I do appreciate the point made by Miracle that certainly if you are connecting the macro to the micro, you're going to find some disconnect, which is also true. But the fact is that if you consider where we were yesterday to where we are today, then we have every reason to feel good. All the indicators are strong, okay? But then before even I come there, let me also jump to the conclusion of the president. For me, it was the best part for me. His conclusion was superb. Rallying the people to come together, to fight together. That is my best part of the presentation. And I'm hoping that somehow, as we go forward, he will find some practical ways to put us together. Because this division, that tends to drive our economies back and forth. We keep marking time. It's all because of the serious national divide that we have. So that was the first part. But on a more substantive issue, I think the conversation, as I've heard from my colleagues, they all drill down to one thing. And I'm going to refer to President Akufo-Addo when he came in with its great idea of the Gadgets-Bed economy. The Gadgets-Bed economy. We have 8 years for him. I personally did not see much in terms of changing that important concept that he threw at us. We should have.
He promoted the policy of Ghana Beyond.
Oh my goodness.
8.
Beautiful policy, but hollow, because there was nothing to it. In fact, the day he proclaimed that, I was with my friends at CDD. We all jumped for joy, because that should be the ultimate for any country like Ghana.
The French president praised him. The whole world, he was being praised.
Correct.
In a similar fashion as John Mahama is being praised for the Accra reset, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, our foreign friends will praise you if you say something like that, but they watch to see how you move with it, because the obstacles in the way are normally placed by themselves. So those things we can live with it. But more seriously, I think after achieving these initial macroeconomic successes, the challenge for me, and most of you have referred to that, is the sustainability. And also the fact that the Ghanaian economy is still a neo-colonial economy and is very, very vulnerable to shocks in the global market economy. And all the commodities that are driving us currently are all commodities that we do not control. That's where the danger is. So as we move on with this, I would like to see a more aggressive policy towards achieving certain self-sufficiency in areas that we're spending so much money and resources. Importing food. Now, I know we're going to discuss the tomato crisis. That Ghana should sit here today, go to Burkina to import tomatoes on a Sahelian country. And we, with all the fertile land around us, we cannot produce enough tomatoes. Just think of that alone.
Without their tomatoes, we're already getting into trouble.
There you go. Yeah. And if you're talking about the dangers of dependency, not even on the global level, this is it. So I am waiting anxiously to see how the president follows these initial successes with concrete and aggressive policies for self-sufficiency in the food that we eat. I admire the initiative for Feed the Nation. In a way, it was for me, knowing a champion, I said this, mimicking a champion. And let me tell you, in the 2016 campaign, the president made it clear that if he won that election, he will introduce Operation Feed Yourself. And Julius Deborah, who is the chief of staff, did the same. I have sources. I've quoted this in the book I wrote on a champion. And again, if you know the history, it was during that period that President Mohammed's father became one of the best farmers in the area of rice, exporting rice. And I think because of the suspicion that perhaps he had connection with the champion, that's why he even left to go to Nigeria for safety. So there is a history behind that. And I expect the president to take this seriously so that at least tomato, plantain, pepper, all these things, if we can do that and become self-sufficient, most of the other problems we can control. So again, my point is simple. Let us now begin to look at how we change the Gadgetsburg economy. Let us begin, and this is what my colleagues and the economists who came on earlier referred to as the structural issues. Structurally, we are tied to the global economy. And so far as we are tied to that, not that we can extricate ourselves immediately, but there are certain domestic measures we can take to make us reduce our dependency on the external economy. For me, that's what I'm waiting for.
All right, so we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll focus on the Sona, on the agriculture, and rural economy, cocoa issues. Has the president got a solution to it? What he says, is that something we can take? Do we accept it? Must the cocoa farmers accept it? The plan to bring a legislation that sort of deregulation of the sector, sort of, not exactly deregulation, but in a way where the prices will rise and fall by themselves and everybody will see, and it will not be government cushioning, perhaps, or not too much of a cushion. Is it a thing to do? Agyeman-Duah was here a while ago. He said, you don't do that. Already they are selling their cocoa farms. There must be some incentive why they want to keep doing cocoa. So we'll project it on that. And then what does it have to say about the power situation? It's been mentioned that for the economy to thrive, you need cheap and reliable power. The power is becoming expensive. And now you buy the credits and they just vanish. They just vanish. I didn't believe what people were telling me in my home and elsewhere about what was happening to the power. So I checked it. I kept ignoring that and said, they have increased the thing. So don't worry, let's buy some more. Then they did again, said, something is wrong with us, so go and check. So I wrote formally. Formally, I like to, keep a paper trail. So I wrote formally to the ECG in the area. And then I said, this is my situation. Previously, if I bought, say, 1,000 cedis, it would take me this period. Now I buy 1,000. If I bought 1,000 and it took me a month, now I buy 1,000, it doesn't take me 2 weeks. So what's going on? They sent their guys, they came and checked. They looked through the whole thing. They said, there's nothing wrong with your meter. Your wiring is perfect. So everything is okay. So I'm asking the question, this probe that the minister has directed, what is he supposed to do? Is it really not the increase that has been done, the 30%? What is wrong with the meters? Doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the meters. So we'll be right back. Project those sectors on your reality in agriculture and power. We'll be right back.